So what is SharePoint? It allows you to build intranet sites and create pages, document libraries, and lists. You add web parts to customize your content. You can show important visuals, news, updates with a team or communication site. It allows you to discover, follow, and search for sites, files, and people across your company, and sync and store your files in the cloud so anyone can securely work with you. How do we access SharePoint? We sign into office.com, and once we have the appropriate license, we should be able to then see SharePoint available to us, and which once clicked on will bring us to our SharePoint list, or SharePoint site, sorry. Discovery with SharePoint. So at the top of the SharePoint page, there's a search box where I can search a particular site I'm on, or the entire SharePoint, all the SharePoint sites that I might have. So I can search for sites, people, or files. So in an example in the screenshot, I'm searching for webinar, and it's finding 2 files with the word webinar in them and a news post that I have that has the word webinar. SharePoint allows you to collaborate. I can open a document from the document library. I can create a new document in the document library, or I can share a file with other users in or outside of your organization. So let's jump into a demo. So once I go to office.com, I'm now going to have my list of available applications available to me, and I'll select SharePoint. Once I've selected that, it's going to open up, and I'll have a list of SharePoint sites that I've created. So I'm just going to click on this Webinar Paul site that I created. So the site itself is very customizable by clicking this edit button, and I'll show you that in a minute here. But basically we have the home page, and then we have conversations. I have a document library link here, so if I click there I can see it'll bring me directly to the document library with documents in it. So just go back to the webinar page. I have site contents, recycle bin, and a OneNote notebook related to the site. So as soon as I create a team site, it creates Office 365 group associated with this SharePoint page. So to modify and put different elements on the page, it's as simple as clicking edit here in the top right, and then I can start adding elements. So I've added a news content part of the page. I have a documents library part of the page. I've embedded a YouTube channel video on the page, and I've added a time, locations and time element on the page, and I've also embedded most recent documents, and then I also added a countdown element to the page. So I can also add other elements. So some of the other ones that may be available to me is if I just drag here, I can add a new web part by clicking this plus button, and then it shows me all the web parts that are available to me. So I can do a file, viewer, an image, all sorts of things, events, calendar, group calendar, highlights, image gallery, list, which I'll be showing shortly, Office 365 connectors, planner stuff, Power BI reports being embedded, an RS feed. So as you can see, I can collaborate, I can produce and publish a lot of different types of content to the page. This is where I had the YouTube video. So this is the real clock that I embedded down here. So to modify, once these are on the page, I can just click on the edit web part, and as you can see, I'm now going to have a list of options. So I can choose to show date and time format on that particular web part, or I can click on the edit button and actually change the city that I'm wanting to show. So let me close that. So I can change the display name, change the time that shows. So very customizable web parts. Same thing with this element here. I can change this one if I wanted to. So I'm showing a certain time, 11:30 is when our webinar is. I have a background image that I've put in here, so I can easily change that, change the opacity. So very customizable. I can put things 3 columns, just everything in a single column. So once again, very customizable. Once I'm done with all my changes that I want to publish, I would click republish, go out and republish the page that's available to me. So let me just go back to the home page here. Let me jump to the document library. So let's say I want to create a new document or share documents. The way I would do that is while I'm within the document library, I can click the new button. I create a new folder, or I can add a new Word document, Excel, OneNote, whatever the case may be. So I have a lot of options available to me. So I'm just going to create a new Word document. So this will bring up Word in the browser. So Word for the web. So I've created a document. It's now saved. I'm just going to close this. So as you can see, I have a document available to me. And I can now select this document and actually share this with other individuals if I wanted to within the organization or outside the organization. So I can manage access. So I can send them a link. Same stuff you would see, very similar look and feel that you would have in OneDrive. So let me just close that. And they can just be people within the group or people with existing access. I can allow or disallow them to have the ability to edit the document. So very powerful. I can also open a document. So if I've selected a document, I can open it from the documents here. But that's just modifying and accessing documents. Now, if I want to search for things within the library itself, so this was the news portion here. So at the top, you'll see this search this site. I can start typing in something. So let's say webinar. I can see I have 2 articles, one webinar article. I have a published news post called webinar, and it's returned files, sites, or people that meet your search criteria. So SharePoint lists are a collection of data that gives you and your coworkers a flexible way to organize information. So let's jump to a demo of SharePoint lists. So while I'm in the SharePoint site, I can click New up here and select List. What this will do is it'll ask me to give it a name. So let's call this one Webinar 2. I can show this in the navigation list. I'll leave that on and hit Create. This will create a blank SharePoint list for me without any columns or anything. So now I want to start defining, just like in Excel spreadsheet, a SharePoint list is made up of rows and columns. So I can, as an example, I want to track my webinar sessions, who the presenter is, and sort of which track it's under. So title I'll leave as is, and I'll start adding a column here. So I want this column to be date of when it's going to be. So we'll set this to be a date column, and I'll give it a name. So it'll be date. We'll just leave this as date and time. I can include time, friendly format. I can choose a default value of today's date as an example. So let's do that. I can also select more options where I'm going to be shown, I can do conditional column validation, also enforce required values to be in this field, or have the user the ability to leave it blank. So I'll just hit save at this point. So I now have webinar date. I want the track, so I'm going to make this basically a drop down for the track. So I'll say this is a choice column. So, and type, I can now change the values that are available to me. So I'll say Office 365, GP, Power BI. I can also give the set a default value that I want. I'll just leave that to none for now and hit save. We'll also do Business Central. And the other last column I want to add is who the presenter is. So this will be a person type field. So now type will be person or group. I'll leave that. I can just say allow selection of groups if I have groups set up in Office 365, and I'll just hit save. So now I have my lists created, and if I want to add new values to this, I can select quick edit or just leave it on this and select new. So when I select new, I'm going to get this form that pops up with the exact columns that I have selected. So we'll call this SharePoint lists. The date's going to be the 11th. Track, once I click that, I'll be presented with my drop down value, so I could say this is going to be Office 365. And presenter, I can just do a lookup based on email address. So, and I'll hit save. As soon as I do that, it's going to add those values as a row within my list. Now I can go through and add some more webinars to this list. I've actually already done that in this webinar list one, so we'll just jump to that one. So as you can see, I have title, webinar date, webinar track, and presenter available to me. So one of the powerful things with lists is the ability to filter those lists and to then save filtered views in the system. So as an example, if I click the drop down here, I have Paul's items, and I'll show you how I created this in a second, but that shows me only the ones where the presenter is Paul. So the way I did that is if I go back to my all items and I select this filter option, I can say, apply one of these filters. So as an example, I could say, show me all the ones that are Office 365. I'll turn on that filter. So it's filtered my list down based on the webinar track being Office 365. I could then hit this drop down and select Save View As. So if I select that, I could give it a name. So this would be Office 0365 Webinars. And I probably don't want caps lock on. And save. So as soon as I do that, I can now, it's now showing me that particular view, but I can go back to all items, or I can just switch back to my Office 0365 webinars to only see that. So very powerful. I can create all sorts of different views that are available to me based on a list. I can also tie these lists into a Power App, so I could create a Power App that would be available within Power Apps. I can export this to Excel. I can have some workflow run on this based on Power Automate. So I could, based on certain things happening or certain dates not being met, I could have emails going out to individuals. So the quick edit ability, let me go back to all items. So what quick edit looks like, if I select quick edit here, I can now click on here. Instead of adding, I can just add a bunch of these or paste in a bunch of values into here. So if we had webinar 3 and the date's going to be 12/24/2019, and the track, this could be CRM, and the presenter will be me. So as you can see, the quick edit has the same capabilities as I had, just a different way of being able to enter the data. So webinar recap for today, we reviewed what SharePoint is. We looked at creating and configuring SharePoint lists.